your point of are markets worth it for you? Is this particular markets or getting into the market scene worth it for you?
Hi friends, I'm Brittany, the mama maker behind Ginger Patch Designs, and I am in Jackson, Tennessee for a 4-day holiday mart. This is actually part 2 of the entire market vlog. If you missed part 1 of setup and day 1, I'll leave that link down in the description below for you to go check out. This was an hour and 20-minute drive from my house, and I have 10 minutes to get inside. It's pouring rain, so here we go.
If you watched part 1, you saw where I had problems with lighting, and the Civic Center had painted all of the interior on the bottom black. And so this is the second day where I realized that I needed to bring my lighting. There's only one show every year where I have to use lighting, and so all I have are these round hanging lights. They have 3 different settings. They're actually fantastic, and they hold their charge a really long time. I'm just trying to find the best angle here. I ended up hanging them on the poles, and it wasn't ideal, but it's all I had, and it did do a lot to brighten the space. The first hour this morning was really slow. I didn't make my first sale until 9:50, but the way that it's laid out, customers enter from the upstairs and they kind of mill around and then they make their way downstairs where most of the vendors are. So I always bring something to do at huge events like this because you'll have these periods where it's really slow and then periods where it's super, super busy. And I also think for me in particular, I am one of the few handmade only booths in the entire place. There's a lot of boutiques. And so having something that I'm making like right there on the counter as people are walking by just in a subtle way shows like, hey, I'm a handmade booth. People are also often intrigued and they'll ask what I'm making, and especially kids, they always are super interested in what I'm crocheting. And so it's a fun, conversation piece as well. I'm just working on some dumpster fires right here. Yes, I said a dumpster fire. They're super cute, and I think they'd be a really great gift for coworkers, but I ended up selling none. I don't know if it's where I had them. I just had them right there in that white display on the checkout, and they did get a lot of looks, but I didn't sell any. So we'll see on the next show. I explained in part 1 how this is a very bougie event. I take special care in my setup, and I make sure to create a nice flow into the booth where customers can come in and out. And so here I've got my checkout stand all the way out of the way on the right, and then like the main focal point is the double tables put together with the grid walls in the back. I don't love using the grid walls. They are clunky. I don't like the way they look, but they are very handy to hang all of my things here. As you can see, hanging and height is always best for a lot of visibility, especially in a space that is unexpectedly dark. I really love how I did my cow sweatshirt with my hazel tote bag. A pattern for that is coming soon, my sewing girlies. I'm working on it. And then this is my DIY sticker stand. I say my DIY sticker stand. Mr. GPD made that for me. I also brought some turtle pieces to work on for the crochet girlies out there. This is the Tank the Turtle pattern. You can find it on Etsy. The show started at 9, and by 11 o'clock, I had only had 5 sales. And I'm not going to lie, even though mornings at events are often a little bit slower, and then, closer to lunchtime, they'll kind of get going, I was getting a little nervous here because this event is usually jam-packed almost the whole time. Usually the first hour is a little slow going, and then from there, you can't sit down. And so I was starting to get a little bit nervous here. I counted about 4 or 5 boutiques that had like this. It's almost like they got them from the same manufacturer, and I'm not knocking it. They're boutiques. I go into this event knowing that that is my competition. That is what I'm up against. But it was discouraging that these super cute, perfect size quilted bags that are trendy were $20 or $25 at these boutiques, and mine were, starting at around $40, and I think my most expensive was $80 or $85 because it was a large vintage quilt top, upcycled quilt top. I did end up selling a few tote bags, but not as many as I had hoped. But you know what? What are you gonna do? I mean, all you can do is just pack it up, take it to the next event, maybe run a sale if you have more stock that you're stuck with than you were hoping for. At the end of the day, I just try to pay really close attention to not just what people are buying, but what they're looking at. If they're looking at the price tags and walking away, and how often they do that, how often or how much a particular product sells. And if it's just not selling, even if it's gorgeous and beautiful and you put a lot of time into it, if it's consistently not selling and you have evaluated your price points, you have tried to showcase it better, take better product photos, then you might just need to let that thing go. And so tote bags have done okay for me. They are a higher price point. I don't make a whole lot, but it's definitely something that I'm not going to just mass produce for future events. And it was right around this time in the afternoon, around 2 or 3 o'clock, that I was getting very nervous. It was so slow that I was sitting down a lot. I decided to sit over here in this little spot that I made for Mr. GPD because my back was hurting. And Friday is 9 to 5, and then there was a ladies' night at 6 to 9. And based on my sales on Friday, I was very nervous. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I was very discouraged. It happens no matter if you're brand new or if you've been doing it for years or almost 10 years like I have. It happens. And in those moments, before you panic, I do a lot of reevaluating, the setup, the presentation, the price points, etc. You go through those steps in your head of like, what can or should I do better? What is in my control? What is not in my control? This event was $850 for, I believe it was 26 or 27 open working Mart hours. Now, if you haven't completely fallen out of your chair when I said that, this event has historically been worth it. That is a very high fee. There's a lot of other overhead initial investment cost associated with this event. So that's why I say I was getting very, very nervous. I had not even made my initial investment back at this point, which historically in the past, I'll usually make the initial investment back by like between lunchtime and 3 o'clock, depending-ish. I can't exactly remember, but I do remember going into the ladies' night at 6 to 9. From then on throughout the weekend was going towards profit revenue. So Saturday morning, I came in with a fresh attitude, very positive penny, and I got my booth set up. I got the lights up and going, and I was just really hopeful and positive that this was going to be a much better day, clean slate, all the things. I decided to run my first ever Black Friday sale, which also started on this same day. So as soon as I got there, I was responding to a few emails from some returning customers that had some questions. Saturday started off really strong. I sold a lot of quilted products. Crochet products always sell really well for me, and I usually only sell them at markets. I don't push those a whole lot online because it's hard for me to keep up. And I do a lot of that bulk crochet prepping in the wintertime, and then I just stash them in my closet for market season. So not including crochet, the things that sold really well were the quilted products, like the smaller ones, the bow pouches, the bow keychain wallets, and just the purse pouches. I only sold a few. I think I sold like 5 of the larger bags that were at a higher price point, but it was absolutely fine because my sale was also running online, and I was selling several of them online at the same time. There were a few times where I was going to pull tote bags off of the rack because I only had 1 or 2 of them, and as they sold online, I would go pull them off the rack and stash them underneath so I could ship those orders out later in the week. Even though I'm a sewing business and I have some crochet products, honestly, the number one seller at every single event are bookmarks, and then second would be stickers, only because they're smaller price points. A lot of kids buy them, and a lot of people will add those to their order of, a boxy pouch or a tote bag or something. I have several different kinds of bookmarks. I have the classic, what I call the classic paper ones that are either matte or laminated. I have the fabric corner bookmark. I also added the raw edge recently. I have a tutorial on those if you're interested. I'll make sure to link that for you down below. And then I have the custom dog and cat breed bookmarks. These have been a genius thing that I've been doing. I love it because I love doing all the dog breeds, and I'm expanding to try to get different colors and mixed breeds coming up soon. Those are always a great attention getter for people, and they absolutely love them. Technically, the event Saturday was a good sales day. Like on its own, hour for hour, it wasn't a bad day. but I felt like I was in the weeds sales wise, trying to make up for the day before that was really slow. And so it kind of took away from the great sales day on Saturday. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't what it was last year. So still overall, by the end of the day, Saturday, it was not going well overall for the event. I was still overall discouraged. Prior to this event, I had already made some pivotal decisions for 2026, but definitely during this event and after, my husband and I were talking, and there's going to be a lot of shifts for GPD in 2026, including the whole market season and just being more strategic about what benefits my business and what doesn't. And those are really hard decisions because I really overall enjoy market season, but is it serving my business? You have to ask yourself if certain moves that you're making are not serving your business and they're not helping your business grow and become profitable, some cuts need to be made. The last clip that you just saw was Saturday. I didn't even film on Sunday, the very last day, and then taking everything down. I was just over it, to be honest with you. I was just ready to be done and pack it all up and go home. You know, whenever I have kind of a not so great experience or a situation, a market doesn't go the way I had hoped, and I'm filming it and vlogging it, I try to somehow turn the negative into a positive. Not only like I do that myself, like I'm trying to grow the business and what can I do better? What can I improve on? And then share those things, right? And this was one of those situations, I want to preface this, like I went into this market knowing that I was not going to be doing it again anyways, like regardless of how it turned out. It's just how it ended up going. And the fact that I made half of what I made last year, which is a huge cut, was just the cherry on top that I'm not ever doing this event again. When this happens at events, vendors start talking. There were several congregated in my booth during the event because it was that slow. And we were all talking like, are markets worth it anymore? Are they worth it? Are they worth it? And I talked to one of my vendor friends. His name's Corey. They own like a beard oil business. And I was like, whenever I hear that, that's such a layered question. Like, I feel like the phrase "for you" needs to be added to that. Are markets, or is this market worth it for you? Because all of our situations are vastly different. I have a family and a child. I'm homeschooling. My husband travels somewhat for work. And so that dynamic heavily influences whether I can even do a particular market or I should be spending my time doing certain markets. Whereas, my friends that I was just talking about, they don't have any children, they are married, and they run the business together. So their situation is very different than mine, and it's different for all of us. I've seen a lot of chatter online about how markets in general this year are just down, and that happens. If you are thinking about doing markets or you're somewhat new, that is normal to have down years. And that was hard for me as well this year. It stinks. It's not fun. It does cause you to reevaluate a lot of things. Part of running and growing a business is adapting and being flexible, and that is an ongoing thing that is just always going to be there. I'm going to use my experience at this market to illustrate like the bigger point of are markets worth it for you? Is this particular markets or getting into the market scene worth it for you? Okay, for me, this particular event, the initial investment was the biggest that I've ever done, that I ever do. It's over $1,000. I talk more about initial investment in my market vendor series. Like initial investment is not just the fee, but it's the gas. It's not just the financial implications. It's your time, your stress, your everything that you have to put into it to make the market happen. If you're staying in an overnight hotel, food, you'd be surprised how much food and snacks and coffee adds up. So all of that is what, to me, is the initial investment. So you try to make your initial investment back, and then after that, it goes towards not profit, it's revenue. Hour per hour, I made more at this little hometown market a few weeks before this big one. More hour per hour at that tiny little market than I did at this big one. I really want to stress that your takeaway money at the end of the market is not the only factor in your decision to do a market. It is more worth it to me to do a market that's either closer to home, much cheaper, etc., and make less, but it's less stressful. It's like a one and done, what I call a one and done, like a single day, or you set up one day and it's the next day. That is a lot more feasible for my particular schedule and my family dynamic than someone who's maybe not married, or married but with no children, or who is older and can't do really physical markets. This was a very physical market. It took the better part of a day to set up, and it's just a lot of physical exertion. Like, my back was hurting when I was done. If you're still with me in the video, thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe. But I really want to stress to you and encourage you to think about what your goals are for your little business. Like, whether it's a side hustle or not, what are your goals? Because markets might not fit into those goals. There is a lot of benefit in markets. You learn, I cannot stress to you how much you learn about all aspects of running your business and working with the public and pricing and presentation and all of those things doing markets. It's invaluable experience. But if it doesn't align with the goals that you have for your business, depending on what your product is, and that's a whole nother video for another day, then they're not worth it for you. They're not worth it for you. I'll use myself as an example again. I love markets. I generally enjoy like meeting people, talking to people, have returning customers to my booth, have customers come back that bought from me previously telling me like how much they loved and still use what they bought from me. Like, that just fills my crafty bucket. However, I'm making big business shifts. I'm making huge shifts in my business for 2026. I'm getting into the pattern writing and sewing tutorial scene, and I'm going to do other crafty tutorials too. I've had a lot of requests for the magnetic bookmarks that I make. It's coming eventually, and so I have to weigh like how much time I really have. I still have to clean my house. I still have to cook. I like to cook from scratch and can and make bread and all of that. I homeschool my daughter, as I've said. So like, I have a lot on my mommy wifey plate that I have to juggle with my small business plate, and something's got to give. And unfortunately, that's going to be some markets. I'm not going to like stop doing markets altogether, but several of them are going to have to go because they are just not worth it for me and don't align with what my goals are. I really hope that was not as discouraging as I feared it would be. I hope it was an encouragement, and I hope I made sense. And friends, let me know down in the comments what your questions are, because there's so many topics I just threw at you that we could break down even more, and I could add to the market vendor playlist if you would like me to. Thank you so much, friends. Make sure you like and subscribe for future crafty content, and I will see you later. Bye.